Hi guys, and welcome back to Perspective. It's your girl, Trinity Jennings-Pagan, and I am so genuinely just so happy to be back. Perspective is a platform in a space where, it's culture, it's social awareness, and all through storytelling. We ask bigger questions. The goal is to challenge what we think we know and then explore the moment and the people and the ideas that are shaping our world, but ultimately what is shaping oneself, as an individual, what makes up who you are. I think I was in middle school, maybe 6th grade, when I heard a quote about, being, I think it was 7th grade, being a mosaic of all the people that you've ever encountered, all the experiences you ever had. And I think that's what perspective is representative of. And so, I don't know, I've been in college. I'm going into my senior year, and perspective has been a part of my life since I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore during COVID. And back then, I just started this podcast because I don't know, like any teenager, I had a whole lot to say. And I was, observing the political climate in our country and how everything was unfolding. And I really wanted to hold people accountable, as well as lifting my peers up and showing each other that there's a future and there's opportunities and there's a path forward for all of us. And I think that's been the core of who I am, is that access and hope and opportunity. And 5 years later, I've realized that the core of perspective is still that. I think it's a search for truth and understanding. And I've witnessed that in my own life as a first generation college student. Life has moved so quickly. My responsibilities grew, my worldview grew, especially in balancing classes, leadership positions, work, and just trying to figure out who is Trinity, who do I want to become. And while I wanted perspective to grow with me, I felt so stuck and just trying to make it perfect and getting anxiety, and you can't be interested in politics and interested in sports at the same time. You have to pick one. Just a lot of that going on, and having so many conversations, trying to seek so much advice, and then all of that, and the platform has just become stagnant. And then that's a difficult position to be in, because the vision and the purpose hasn't left my mind or my heart. And perspective never stopped being a part of who I was, because it is about your perspective. And so, it can't, the platform and the podcast can't lack when the time away has been, I've been gaining perspective through all that time and new experiences and new things to share. And so, yeah, I just needed to grow into the person I wanted to bring back behind, this microphone and everything. And now it just feels like the right time to stop delaying. So, all that said, all that long story time, the purpose of this episode in particular is about staying grounded, and I think really doing everything that you can to be truthful and honest with yourself. You spend all this time, I think, especially people in their 20s, you're just trying to become. You're in a state of becoming. And the whole time, we're going to, chase this becoming and becoming so different. Of course, there's so many things that you have to do to learn and grow. But all of that to just return and to be truthful and honest to who you are at your core. And I think that's reflective of who you were as a child and who you are. And with everyone just being so obsessed with becoming more successful, more accomplished, more attractive, more connected, to become employed or whatever else. But it's as you keep trying to climb, when will you ask and just stop for a second and okay, who am I? And am I still myself? Because I don't think in becoming you need to abandon yourself, but I feel like I just noticed that with a lot of people, and even almost myself. You're trying to fit pieces into a puzzle where it just doesn't fit. And so I've been thinking a lot about being grounded. I think that's one of the best parts about coming home for the summer, is you don't want to stay still, and you don't want to avoid growth, but making sure that while my life is changing, I don't lose the person who's living it. Because lately, again, it just feels like everyone's trying to become someone else. You have Instagram, you have LinkedIn, you have TikTok, and you see what other people are doing, and you spend all that time watching what others are doing that you forget to actually put some action into what you want to do. And it's the goals that you have aren't bad. It's just you have to wonder, are you still connected to the person you started at? And I think social media is the hardest thing. I also heard a quote comparison is a thief of joy, and it's something that I really remind myself of, because you only get to be yourself, and trying to run away from that is going to make your life so difficult and unhappy. And as it's subtle, and you just start taking little pieces of people's lives, I think a lot of the time people call that monitoring spirits, but it's we live in a surveillance state, and that's bound to happen. So that's a whole nother topic to get into, which we will. But it just happens naturally when you're looking and consuming the same sort of things. You naturally just, again, like it's this mosaic. You're pulling pieces of the things that you're seeing, and it just happens little by little. Sometimes you start dressing like people because they got compliments, or you start saying yes to things because it looks cool to post, or and I just think that if we just start being completely 100% authentic with ourselves, doing what you feel comfortable doing, life will be better. And it sucks because it's like the systems are telling you who to be. In college, they're telling you that the method is this, but that might not work for you. Like, of course, there's a standard, but I think I realized with myself, I'm just never going to be that person who does things according to how it's supposed to be. I think God is the author and illustrator of my life, and who he made me to be is exactly what I'm going to do, and it won't be the norm. Like, I just noticed that in my, like, looking back through my life. Not that I want to keep doing things the same way, but it's like, okay, that's the theme of your life, and you have to figure out what your testimony is and what you're going to be able to give back into the world. And I think with me, it's that what is for you, and it won't miss you. And being authentic will take you far. Being yourself will elevate you in ways that sometimes you might not see in the moment. And I felt that, And I just think that, like, all that time spending trying to become someone, and the best I felt is when I'm like, forget all of the noise. I'm just going to do what makes sense to me and for me. And that's exactly what's just so beneficial, And like at college, I feel like, and I don't think it's exclusive to college either. I think it's just in the world in general. You're trying to be productive. You're trying to be on top of things. And then you realize, like, you're completely disconnected and you don't even know what you're doing. Like, you don't even know what's going on. And so I just decided to strip away all of the outside noise. It's like, okay, what matters to me? What do I need to be doing? Where do I want to go? And how do I get there without compromising my own values and what's important to me? It's really difficult. And you could see these things in your life past, just like with academics or with work. I was talking to one of my really good friends, and I'm just like, listening to myself, because okay, I'm turning 21, and it's like, okay, the young and certain thing to do is go outside clubbing and stuff, and like, I'm gonna try to experience that, but I'm like, something in my spirit saying like, okay, maybe I don't like that much, maybe it's not for me that much. And it's like, okay, go out and have these experiences, but you have to ground yourself in like really what makes sense for you, because like what everyone's doing might not align. And like in this state where we're like, trying to just, I don't know, like, just your social media, and it's telling you how you're supposed to be living your life, but they're not the author of your life. You are. God is. You decide what your next steps are. You know deep down what's right for you, not what a system tells you, not what people tell you. And so, I don't know, there's things to think about. And I know, like, with becoming, we think of self-improvement, and we're just in I think I've noticed this, like, we're in a state where everything is about trying to be better instead of just like always trying to be something different instead of just fully embracing who you are. And I don't know if it's a 20s thing. I don't know if you just like you become who you are later on, or is it not that you become who you are later on, but maybe you just finally accept it. And I'd rather not spend all this time in the next 9 years trying to like keep like, I don't know, wrestling with something that I already know. I know who I am, and I don't think I need to go try to be like everybody else to see that. And like, trial and error is a thing, but like, it's to a point, and like the goal. And I think even with the self-improvement thing, people lost the goal. It's not trying to become someone entirely new. It's trying to become more fully and presently yourself. And the qualities that make you magnetic and amazing aren't things that you need to create. It's within you. And it's probably stuff that was buried, maybe trying to fit into a role that wasn't true to yourself. I'm going to stop saying the word authentic. But your curiosity, your passion, your compassion, your creativity, the sense of humor, your perspective, like, no pun intended. But those are things that don't need to change necessarily. It's like, okay, what are we going to protect? Not saying that you don't need to hold yourself accountable for the BS. I'm not saying that. But I just think there's something so beautiful about your original self, and protecting that. Because when I think of who I was when I came to college and who I am as I'm approaching my last year, I don't think I changed much. I think my values truly stayed the same. I didn't put myself in many compromising situations. I didn't change much. And I think like there's so many conversations, like I'm I don't know if this is everyone's experience, but I think it's like the journey kind of just affirms who you are. And I look at myself when I was in high school, in middle school, in elementary school, and I'm like, there's a little part of me that when I got here, I toned down. Like, I was very politically active. I was very loud about it. And I noticed the repercussions of that. And then I knew, okay, I'm going into a PWI. And I don't want to, like, it was that imposter syndrome almost. And like wanting to hide, like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be like the person. I wouldn't raise my hand in big classes. I wouldn't do that. And then as I guess I went on, I'm like regaining confidence. I'm like, no, I really am passionate about these things. I need to continue to be that. I need to continue to advocate. And I think these things find you, and I do think it is a part of the growing process. But if what I'm saying speak to you about really being, continue to live in who you are and living your truth, it's important, you know. Like, would the younger version of yourself recognize the person that you are becoming? And like, you know, we do grow mature and stuff, and life shapes us and we experience things that might change us, but I don't want like success. I think the main point is I don't want success to cost me the parts of myself that made me like a dreamer in the first place. I don't know. I hope that like if there's one thing that you could take from this conversation is that it's important to keep growing and chasing your goals and apply for the internship, start the business, go to grad school and lead the e-board and college, or don't go to college, work really hard, whatever it is, do all the things, but like don't just get so focused on building a life or trying to compete and keep up with what's going on next to you that you forget that at the end of the day you have to build a life that is true to yourself, because the world genuinely doesn't need copy and paste, same girls doing the same thing, same boys doing the same thing, everybody's doing that and everybody's doing that. That's not what we need to do. We need to keep being who we are, and I think that will make for, honestly, I feel like that will make for a better world. But I don't know. That's really truly what I believe. And it's really just like, you know, am I still becoming me? You don't want to abandon yourself. And I don't think the best version of you is someone who is completely like lost in the sauce and not the same person. And, you know, that's just where I am, you know. Thank you guys for spending this time with me. If today's conversation challenged you, taught you something new, gave you a different way of looking at the world, share it with someone who might need to hear that. And, you know, every person has a perspective. And until next time, on Perspective with Trinity Jennings-Pagan. Bye.